Hi, I'm Paul DeBartolomeo. Welcome to Fire Engineering's Training Minutes. In this segment, we're going to continue talking about outward opening doors on commercial buildings. As I said earlier, these are probably some of the most challenging doors we're going to be faced with in terms of forcing them conventionally. All right? Some of the things that we have to look at when we're sizing up a door in the rear of the building is any add-on lock hardware that the business owner may have put on the door to further fortify the rear of the occupancy. All right? So if we take a look at the door here on the training prop, we can see some carriage bolt heads placed around the door, some on the lock side and then some spaced across the door. All right? As part of my size up, I kind of want to identify them and start to work on my game plan as how I'm going to go about forcing this door conventionally. All right? And these bolt patterns actually do mean something to us. If I look up high on the door here, I see these 4 carriage bolt heads kind of spaced closely together in a rectangular pattern. That's indicative of a slide bolt, or what we call a barrel bolt. All right, so that's a bolt on the other side that's penetrating into the frame. All right, down here on the door, where I have carriage bolt heads both on the lock side and the frame side, that to me is indicative of the cleats for a drop bar. All right, so that's another pretty formidable locking mechanism that they've put on the other side of this door so that people can't break in from the rear. All right, that's going to somewhat negatively affect our conventional operation because it's going to make this door much more difficult to force. All right, and I kind of have to develop a sequence or a pattern, if you will, on what I'm going to try to defeat first so that I can go ahead and get this door open. All right, specifically with the drop bar, if you think about it, the bar is going to go lock side to frame side and keep the door pinned in the frame. So even if I thought maybe I would just attack the hinges and peel the door out that way, this side of the drop bar is going to negate that effort. So essentially what I have to try to do is get this drop bar out of play so that I can go ahead and force the door in a more standard or conventional manner. All right, so today we're going to discuss a couple of different methods on how I would disable this hardware and then proceed to force this door in the standard method that we've spoke about previously. All right, so I have a couple of options, right, to defeat the drop bar cleat, say. All right, I got my carriage bolt heads here. Probably the easiest thing for us to do would come in with the rotary saw with either an aluminum oxide or an alpha blade, a diamond blade, and just shear the bolt heads. All right, when we talk about shearing the bolt heads, what we're actually going to do is come in on an angle with the blade and cut into the door and just cut right behind the head. We're going to try to cut the shaft on the bolt themselves, all right, to disable that. So Tim's going to come in with the saw, and we're going to demonstrate that first, how we could attack this assembly here with the rotary saw. All right, so as we see here, Tim is in position with the partner saw. If you notice, he's got his blade cocked a little bit because his objective is really to cut into the door and try to attack the shaft of the bolt, right? We're not really trying to cut the head. We're going to try to cut the shaft a little bit behind the head to fail this mechanism. All right, so he's going to start the saw up and demonstrate this procedure. All right, so as you see, we've effectively cut the heads of the bolts off, right, using the partner saw coming in at that 45-degree angle. So once we went and forced this door conventionally, those are going to rip through the other side, disabling that cleat and rendering that drop bar ineffective. All right, so another option we have if we don't have access to the rotary saw would be to manually shear the bolt heads. All right. Obviously, this is going to take a little more time and require a little bit of effort, but the saw is not always going to be readily available for whatever reason. It's out of service, it's being used in another location on the fire ground. This would be a plan B, if you will, to come in and shear the bolt right off. And if you take a look at our Halligan here, right, we notch a little tooth right on the adze. We call that the shearing notch, which may help us try to get in behind the bolt head a little bit, separating the bolt from the shaft. All right, so Tim and Eric are going to come up now and attempt to shear the head off of that bolt.
Hit. 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 Hit.
All right, so just to summarize on the last segment we did, right, dealing with the outward opening doors in the rear of a commercial building, you're probably going to have to deal with that add-on lock hardware, maybe in the form of a slide bolt or a barrel bolt or the drop bar. It's a big thing, sizing it up, identifying where the carriage bolt heads are, and then how are we going to disable that prior to forcing the door. Whether we cut it with the saw or we shear it with the axe and the Halligan, we get that hardware out of the way first so that when we can then switch gears to our conventional entry tactics, the door is going to go much easier. So I'd like to thank a few people for allowing us to put these segments together. First and foremost, Deputy Chief Matt Palmer of the Stanford Fire Department, and the members and officers of the Stanford Fire Department allowing us to come out and use their training facility, and my good friend Dan Gordon from Flash Fire Industries for allowing us to use his training trailer to do all our videos. And of course, I'd like to thank my guys who come out here and assist me with the videos, and thank you for watching another segment of Fire Engineering's Training Minutes.